Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Licensing Committee meeting for Wednesday, the 20th of March, 2024. Agenda item number 1, the minutes. Are members happy to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of December, 2023, which can be found on pages 3 to 8 of the agenda pack? All in favour? Yes. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thanks, Jean. Well, thank you, members, for coming this morning. Julie, do we have any apologies?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. We have apologies from Councillor Annie Blackburn, Councillor David Blackburn, Councillor Richard Duffield, Councillor Stephen Fraser, Councillor Ray O'Callaghan and Councillor Ian Sherwood.
Thank you, Julie. I don't have any urgent business. Sarah, is there anything you... No? And does anybody have any declarations of interest? No? Non-members wishing to address the meeting. Welcome to our Cabinet member, Helen Crane. Thank you for coming, Helen. And we'll move on to the Zoo Licensing Act 1981, and I shall hand over to Sarah Worcester-Smythe, the Legal Services Manager and Deputy Monitoring Officer, to present the report, which can be found on pages 9 to 11 of the agenda pack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee has previously considered and approved Officer Scheme of Delegation in respect of the animal welfare legislation, and this report now deals with the zoo licence legislation, and this report is to clarify those delegations in light of new officers joining the council and job titles changing. So the relevant act is the Zoo Licensing Act 1981 as amended, and under that there's a requirement for inspection and licensing of all zoos in Great Britain. The Act aims to ensure that where animals are kept in enclosures, that they are provided with suitable environment to provide an opportunity to express most normal behaviour. A zoo is defined as being an establishment where wild animals are kept for exhibition, to which members of the public have access, with or without charge for admission, and where there are 7 or more days in any period of 12 consecutive months that they are open. The wide scope of this definition means that the licensed zoos range from traditional urban zoos and safari parks to small specialist collections such as butterfly houses and aquaria. Each licence, or each new licence, runs for a period of 4 years. Consecutive renewals are for 6 years. The Act provides a procedure that must be followed upon application and renewal. It also sets out what the local authority must be satisfied as to when considering whether to grant or renew a licence. It gives the officers power to inspect, and the Act also requires specific conservation measures to be undertaken by the zoo. There are also certain conditions that must be attached to the licence, and again the local authority has a certain amount of discretion as to any additional conditions. The Act provides for the local authorities, i.e. Breckland Council, to be the licensing authorities, and any person wishing to carry on any of these activities in England must obtain a licence from their respective local authority. This function is a non-executive function, hence it sits with this committee. Agreement is therefore sought from the committee to delegate authorisation to the following officers. So it's the Assistant Director, Health and Housing, Environmental Health and Licensing Manager, Food Safety and Licensing Team Leader, Senior Licensing Officer, Licensing Officers, Assistant Licensing Officers, Animal Licensing Officer for the following activities: to grant, refuse, renew, transfer, revoke, impose conditions, vary, cancel and add conditions to a licence. In the case of a refusal or revocation, such action will only be taken in consultation with the relevant executive member. Also, the above people that I've read out should act as a suitably qualified inspectors and take all necessary action as inspectors. They should be able to appoint listed veterinarians as appropriate, and also to take enforcement action in relation to Section 16, to include but not limited to a direction with regard to non-compliance of conditions, zoo closure directions regarding welfare or disposal of animals in a permanently closed zoo. Such action to be taken in consultation with the relevant executive member, and then any other action required by the Act. The options are for you to do nothing or to agree to the delegations I've just read out. Officers must have the correct authorisations to enable them to carry out the work required under the Act on behalf of the licensing authority. Failure to obtain approval for either matter could result in the Council acting ultra vires. The expected benefits are that the animal welfare is a subject that members are often asked about, as it is always a matter of concern for the general public. It is important that members and the public have confidence that the licensing authority is acting lawfully and has the full range of powers available to officers to enable them to implement and enforce the legislation. The recommendation is therefore that the committee agree to delegate authority to the officers listed in the report under section 2.2. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sarah. Could I ask for a proposer and a seconder, please? Thank you. Any questions? Helen.
Thank you, Chairman, for indulging me. The only question that I have is where it says imposing conditions, and what I would like to ask is, are those conditions listed, or conditions that can be imposed, listed within the legislation, or can we impose conditions of our choosing?
I think Craig's going to answer that question.
Yes, there will be some standard conditions, as already stated. As part of the inspection process, so if it's a zoo, we would normally, for the initial inspections and for interim inspections, we would also have to appoint a state veterinary inspector, which is on an approved list. So they're a specific inspector, usually via DEFRA, where they're specifically a zoo licensing inspector, and following that inspection they may add certain conditions, or they may want certain conditions adding on. So I think in answer to the question, yes, we have got power to that. I mean, they would normally be agreed with the operator, but yeah, so yeah, there's the standard ones, and then obviously following that inspection, the state zoo, who is also usually a vet as well, would ask for additional conditions to be put on there.
Thank you, Craig. Linda.
Just one odd thing that caught my eye. On the last page, 4.2, it says failure to obtain approval for either matter could result in the council acting ultra vires. Either matter suggests that there are two. Is that a slip of the pen, and it should be any matter?
Thank you. As ever, well pointed out, I think that's a typo, but thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Well, members, the recommendation is that the committee agree to delegate authority to the officers listed in this report under section 2.2. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. Right, Julie, that's approved. Item 7, licensing fees and charges. 24 to 2025. Councillor Helen Crane, the Executive Member for Waste, Environment, Health, Licensing and Sustainability, to present the report, which can be found on pages 12 to 14 of the agenda pack and is for members to note. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, this has been brought to you today, the licensing fees and charges update, for information. Firstly, I'd like to put on record a big thank you to the team. This has been a very big piece of work, as you can imagine, but as always, it is for us to recoup any expenses from the applicant, and it should never be on our taxpayers to have to subsidise. Hence, the review has been done. But I'm going to hand over to Craig, who will give a better explanation than me. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. This report was just to note, members. Are there any questions? Linda.
Just one query on the fees. Animals for exhibition, near the bottom of the page of fees. Animals for exhibition application for a 3-year licence has risen by, I think it's £246. I just wondered, has the process changed or were we grossly undercharging before?
Craig?
Yes, I think in answer, yes, we were grossly undercharging. We've not had that many previously applications for exhibition of animals, but I think actually, going through the process, the amount of officer time, it's involved, it sometimes involved committee decisions as well. So I think it was, it was really just to review that in light of, I think previously we've charged a fee, but when we looked at it, we had undercharged, and I think, obviously it's difficult because it depends on the nature and the size of that collection as well, doesn't it? So, if it's a very simple one, it's very simple. If you've got lots of animals, so yes, I think we've just reviewed that to catch up and learn from that, previous dealings with those applications.
Linda.
Just a follow-up question that occurred to me as you were saying the same thing. If we've got a range from full-size zoo to butterfly collection open 6 days a year or whatever the figure was, is it fair to charge 500 and whatever it was pounds for a very small outfit? Or is that something you're going to work out as the years go on, or when people complain?
Well, I think in answer to your question, I think we've obviously averaged out the amount of inspection time, but the officer time and the processing is very similar. I would also point out at the bottom that those fees are also plus vet inspection fees there where appropriate. So I think what I'm saying is, yes, there may be a little bit of difference, but whether they're small or large, the officer time, processing it, looking at the paperwork, looking at the plan, looking at all the information, looking at the individual is the same. But actually in the inspection, if we appoint an inspector, for example, if it takes them 2 hours, they pay for 2 hours. If it takes 2 days, they pay for 2 days. So I think what we tried to do is rather than, plus those fees, because then it takes account of the complexity and the time involved, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Craig. Well, if nobody's got any other questions, thank you. The report has been noted. Thank you, Craig. Item number 8, the Licensing Committee update. And we'll go back to Craig Fowler for his update. Thank you, Craig.
Hello again. So this is what we've been doing is putting a general update report for performance and work activities. So again, it's just for the committee to consider the information provided within the report, take account of the performance and current future areas of work that we're working on. So I think what we're saying here is that there's mainly 2 performance indicators that we used within the licensing function, for the licensing committee that is, and they're at Appendix A to this report. So the first indicator measures the performance of the percentage of taxi licences issued within a set timescale, so that's within target. So that is to achieve, sorry, the target is 90% within that time scale. And I'll come on to those in Appendix A in a minute. We'll go through all of the appendix if that's okay. And the second one is enforcement checks as well. So the target for those is 20. And again, that's in Appendix A. I'll take you through that in a moment. Also, Appendix A, you will see the number of animal licensing renewals, the number of new animal licences, and also the annual fees. And what we mean by the annual fees is, for example, if a licence is issued on the anniversary of that licence, they pay an initial fee, but there's an annual fee that occurs each year. So where an annual fee is relevant, they pay an annual fee. So they're all the figures that we've dealt with within the last 12 months. Maybe appropriate now if I just go to those the performance targets, and then I'll move on to 2.0 in a moment. So if I move you to Appendix A, you will see that the taxi licences, so these are the licences are actually issued within the target. You'll see that the target is 90%, and quarter one was 100%, quarter two was 97%, and the last quarter was 100%. So you'll see that we're performing quite well, very well on that. We're well over target of 90%. So 100, 97 and 100. Enforcement checks, again, the target is 20. We've really stepped up with that, and we'll do an update later about some of the collaborative work and some of the enforcement checks that we've been doing. But you'll see there that quarter one was 48, quarter two was 43, and quarter two was 43, and quarter three was 81. So substantially over the target. That is a new target that we set this year. We may increase that number in our target, but we didn't want to be too optimistic if we couldn't do it. But so that's a first year target. Compliances, so this is basically the number of premises when we did those enforcement checks that were found to be compliant. So I think that's just an indicator of, you know, yeah, they're getting a licence, are they compliant or not? And obviously we're working with them to ensure they are compliant. Again, it was a new target, so your target was 50%. But on those enforcement checks, we found that 92% of those premises are compliant. So when an officer goes in, they are normally unannounced, not always, but they're normally unannounced, and the officer will make a decision about whether the business is broadly compliant or not. We've then got some numbers in there, so I don't think I probably need to go into each detail, but you've got numbers of applications within the last 12 months, slightly. That's 1st of October. That says the 1st of October to the 31st of 23. So is that an annual or is that last quarter? I think that's last quarter actually, so it's not within, sorry, the target's within 12 months, and the stats there, I beg your pardon, is in the last quarter. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. I'll take you through back to 2.0. So all the work that we're doing at the moment then. So we've been looking at public registers online. So we gave an update previously. We've been doing quite a lot of work with our digital team. The licensing team have been testing some of those public registers and also our external providers as well as our IT providers. So far, we have the following public registers online. They can be viewed online. So we've got Hackney Carriage Vehicles, Private Hire Operators, Private Hire Vehicles, Executive Private Hire Vehicles, Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Drivers, Scrap Metal Dealers and Collectors, Gambling Club Machine Permits, Street Trading Consents, Animal Licences, Betting Premises other than track, Bingo Premises, and adult gaming centres, and you'll see there's a link there at 2.2, so the public can go on and see which premises are licensed, and they can see details there. Okay, so with the 2.3 then, just an important update is on the 18th of January, we received a letter from the Disclosure and Barring Service, the DBS, which cancelled our organisational and counter-signatory registrations. There's basically a criteria threshold that we should meet is 100 applications per year, and we wasn't currently meeting that over a few year period. So the registration was moved on the 16th of February, and we've now entered into a contractual agreement with a third party known as an umbrella body who have been carrying out the service. So I'm not aware, as the report author, not aware of any significant disruption to frontline services. I believe that's been a smooth and seamless transition. It's now a digital service and fits with the Working Smarter theme. So that is basically, when we're talking about those, I'm sure you're aware, that is a criminal check. So that's a disclosure and barring, that's a criminal check that you may have to have for certain licences, for example, taxi. They can do it online, and they can also, you know, they can log on and see and register from a digital perspective. So we're no longer doing it ourselves. That's sort of contracted out by a third party. Okay, so ongoing work then. We're also working on at the moment, we basically looking at the fees and charges, as Helen, as our executive member, already pointed out. So that will be going to full council on the 28th of March for consideration, and a recommendation that they're implemented from the 1st of April. On the 17th of November, which we touched on at last licensing committee, there is a new Department for Transport guidance document which covers licensable activities for taxis, private hire vehicles. That is a good practice guidance document. We're currently reviewing that against our policies. It's quite a major and time-consuming piece of work, which we will need a bit of attention to detail. So now we've done the fee review, we can move on to that in a bit more in a stronger fashion, and we will update at the next licence committee meeting in June. So that will be quite a major review for our taxi licensing. Again, we continue to host, organise and chair the Norfolk Animal Licensing Officers Group. This is attended by other licensing authorities and partners. It's well developed collaborative working, and the next meeting is scheduled to take place on the 27th of March with a full and interesting agenda. We're also hosting the Norfolk Licensing Forum meeting, and that's a county liaison group. So on both of those, we're sort of hosting and leading for Norfolk and some of the animal welfare stuff, Suffolk as well. So the report really is just to ensure that you're aware about the performance, you're properly briefed and informed about ongoing areas of work, and the benefits are that you're kept informed and you're aware, fully engaged, and you feel able to ask questions, and you're aware of what's going on. So I'm not aware of any implications with the report. It is just for information only, and if you've got any questions on that, then please feel free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Members, just to say on 3.3, where we continue to organise and chair and host the Norfolk Animal Licensing Officers Group, which has been a massive success. We have officers from all the councils in Norfolk and in North Suffolk attending. It's just to note that this is a meeting for officers only, so it doesn't involve us on the committee. Craig, I hope the committee will join me in congratulating the team on exceeding the performance indicators. I mean, it really, really was good reading. It's very, very impressive. So please pass on our thanks to the team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, members, any questions? Tina.
Thank you, Chairman. Craig, well done, and again I concur with the Chairman on a good report. Can you, one just area I'd like to ask, are you going to be looking at the garages for the MOT stations, and how soon will that be looked at, please? Thank you.
Yes, that's a piece of work that we're looking at the moment. We're hoping to pick, well, we started it, but we're hoping to pick that up from April in that next quarter and conclude it. So it's on the to-do list. I think I'm going to help and pick some of that up just to help the team, because there's everybody's been a little bit stretched. But that is on the cards. It's being looked at, and I think we've already had discussions that we'll start it sort of April, and hopefully that first quarter of next year, so April to June, it will be picked up and
All
tied
right,
up.
Tina. Any other questions, members? No? Thank you, then. This report has been noted, Craig. Thank you, Julie. And so, members, the next meeting, to note the arrangements for the next meeting on Wednesday, the 12th of June, 2024, at 10 a.m. here in the Anglia Room. Thank you. This meeting is now closed and will now continue with the Committee of the Licensing Authority. Shall I go on, Julie? Right. Good morning, everyone, once again. Welcome to the Committee of the Licensing Authority on Wednesday, the 20th of March, 2024. And we will go with... is everybody happy to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of December, seems a long time ago now, which can be found on pages 3 to 6 of the agenda pack? Everybody in agreement? Was that everyone, Jeannie?
Sorry, I wasn't looking.
Is that unanimous? Good. Thank you. I'll just sign the minutes. Thank you, Julie. Right, well, once again, we don't have any apologies because we're presuming they're the same as they were for the previous meeting. I don't have any urgent business. Do you, Sarah? Declarations of interest? No declarations? And non-members wishing to address the meeting. Once again, welcome Helen Crane, the Cabinet Member. So we'll move on to item 6, which is the Committee of the Licensing Authority update. And Craig, if you'd like to present pages 7 to 10, please.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this is an update report for the Committee of the Licensing Authority. Again, it's for updating to take account of performance and current future areas of work. Okay. Okay, we'll start again. Yeah, sorry for anyone watching online. We just had some feedback of sound in the room. So shown at Appendix A, our temporary event notices, new premises licensing, annual fees. It does say they're dealt with in the last 12 months, but it actually is the last quarter. So I apologise for that. It is an update for that, so we can talk about that in a moment. I'll move on to that now. That may be the best thing. So you'll see there for the last quarter. Number of at Appendix A, we've got temporary event notices, we've got premises licences, varied EPS, annual fee applications, personal licences, vehicles renewals, and all of those. So some stats there for that. So ongoing work. Again, as I've said previously, we've upped our enforcement checks. So again, whilst we've had good performance on processing and everything else, we have been carrying out a number of enforcement checks. So you'll see in the last 12 months that we've done 86 inspections in premises licensed under the Licensing Act, which includes any joint agency visits, and also 18 inspections of premises licensed under the Gambling Act. We continue to work with partner organisations to protect our communities. Some of that work, of course, is confidential and can't be disclosed in the public domain due to crime prevention, detection, enforcement purposes. Whilst the sale of vapes and tobacco is not a licensable activity and we're not the lead agency, officers have and continue to work with the police, trading standards and other partner agencies to address some of the concerns surrounding vapes, tobacco, crime and disorder. And whilst it isn't a licensable activity, some of those sales of tobacco and vapes may take place in licensed premises. So for example, supermarkets or shops that are selling alcohol, for example, would hold a premises licence. So I'm just going to hand over to Keith now. Keith has got a few slides just to give a bit more information on that collaborative working. So I'll hand you over to Keith.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Craig. Can I have the first slide, please? So a lot of our activity from a licensing perspective is working in partnership, and we're very successful. And every year that we would go out and work with our partners, so collaborative working is really high on the agenda for us. And the usual suspects really from our partnership working is the police, fire and rescue, ambulance service trading standards, other local authorities as well, and council members. So it is really a big team effort. The team has been recognised for this type of work at the Breckland Awards, but it's hardly surprising because every day of the week we are dealing with our partners and we make inroads in certain areas, some of it which I would like to expand on today, but unfortunately I can't. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So with us and the partners, this is what it's really about, the actual objectives. And this is from the main Licensing Act, prevention of crime and disorder, protection of children, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, public safety and prevention of public nuisance. Next slide, please. So each year we will go out and do safety checks with our partners, and it really involves tens of thousands of people. And this slide really demonstrates it. So we'll be out at, for example, the old Buckingham Air Show, the old Buckingham hot air balloons, big events, Maui Wowie and field manoeuvres. Also, we've got interests at the Stetson racing circuit, and also at county shows as well. So we have licensing officers from our team that will go out and look at things such as the licence itself, but also health and safety and food safety. So we're coming into that season, which is always a bit manic for us, but we're there with our partners, and we do get around, and most of our weekends are sort of like in the summer are sort of like either planning or going out and sort of like dealing with issues. So can I have the next slide, please? So the joint investigations of the licence team are currently working with police and trading standards and dealing with illegal vapes and illicit tobacco that may have been sold to children. Now, this is really a big issue for us, but working in partnership allows us to sort of like come back and the reason why I'm quite keen to raise this with you is it may lead to reviews. And so from our point of view, there's some big, a lot of projects going on across counties as well that really brings in our teams. So I think that's the last one. So as I said, I can't talk too much about some of this work that's been going on, but it just gives you an idea of things when we go into premises with police, things will be seized and premises may well be closed. So I think I just really want to give you a taste, Chair, of what we're actually currently involved in, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Looking at 2.1, the visits to licensed premises and enforcement checks in the last 12 months, I mean, it really, really is very impressive to manage to visit and inspect all those premises. So, thank you very much to you and the team. Committee, the recommendation is that the Committee of the Licensing Authority consider the information provided within this report, taking account of performance and current future areas of work. Do we have any questions before we carry the recommendation? No, thank you. Let's carry then, Julie. Thank you very much, Craig, and to Keith for that very informative report. Item number 7, training requirements from committee, if any. Does anybody have any training requirements at this present time? If you do, please don't hesitate to get in touch with myself or the officers. And feedback and discussion on recent panel meetings, if any. Sarah, do we have any?
No, Madam Chair, not for me.
Okay. Craig? No? Helen? No, and I don't have anything to report, committee, because thankfully the panel meetings have been quite quiet recently. So the next meeting, to note the arrangements for the next meeting on Wednesday the 12th of June 2024, immediately following the licensing committee meeting, which starts at 10 a.m. here in the Anglia Room. So thank you to everybody in attendance, and thank you to those watching on YouTube at home. The meeting's now closed. Thank you.